going to be pretty quick. It's not a long presentation, but it's very important. So I'm very happy to see you all here. So I think I'm going to get started just because I know what time it is as a parent. And I know that there's a lot of things that need to happen from now until bedtime. So we'll just get started here. Just give me one moment to accept someone else. And we will get going. You can feel free to write your name in the chat. That will help us take attendance. And if you have a question along the way, you can feel free to ask a question. You can do that by raising your hand, or you can just, if it seems appropriate there's a pause, you can unmute and ask a question. It's very casual. So we don't have much of a Zoom etiquette like you might have at work if you're used to Zooms. It's meant to be a time of community. So feel free to just speak up if you have a question or you have something that would be valuable to add to the group. That would be very wonderful. So thank you all for coming tonight. And I think I flipped through a few screens here as I was doing that. So let me go backwards. Thank you all for coming tonight. We're very excited to start offering some more enrichment programs for family. And okay, just a few more people were coming in. I just wanted to just say one more time, if you can put your name in the chat, that would be lovely. That will help us know who's here and to be able to circle back with you if there's something that comes up that we wanted to share with everyone that attended. So thank you so much for coming. We know your time is extremely valuable, and it is that time of night when a lot of responsibilities kick in, and it's dinner and bath and books. So that's what we're talking about tonight, is reading for emotional growth. So thank you for taking the time. It's going to be a quick presentation, but if you have questions, we'll certainly get to them all tonight. If there's a resource that I can provide you with after, if there's a question you ask that I don't have a resource for in the moment, I will certainly give that to you. And hopefully it will be a great learning experience and a sharing experience for all of us. So thank you so much again for joining us. Tonight, our topic is reading for emotional growth. And at Wellkind, we have 7 wellness pillars. And these pillars basically encompass every piece of a human. So it's everything we need to be well. So one of our wellness pillars is emotional growth. And another wellness pillar is relationships. So those are 2 of the 7. And those are the 2 that we're highlighting tonight when we're talking about reading for emotional growth. And our emotional growth pillar, by the way, if you don't hear me for a moment or something becomes unclear, just please let me know so I don't just keep talking and you can't hear me. If there's a technical difficulty, we'll try to work through it. But our emotional growth pillar, there's a focus on working towards emotional intelligence. So as we know, there's our intellectual intelligence, so how we think things through, and then there's an emotional intelligence that comes with how we process things, how we're able to perceive things, how we're able to express our feelings. So that's not just for children, that's for adults too, as we know. So I don't know about you, but my emotional growth is something that I work the hardest at as an adult. The other stuff we just kind of learn by listening and watching, but the emotional stuff is I think that's the meat of what we go through in life. So our emotional growth pillar focuses on actively working towards emotional intelligence, managing stressors, which we can probably all agree is extremely important, distinguishing and expressing feelings in a constructive way. Constructive way is the key there, and practicing a positive approach to life while facing obstacles with a curiosity to problem solve. So that's extremely important. And if the last few years didn't throw that right in our face and say, hey, grow, develop in this area, I don't know really what else could. But the other pillar that I wanted to focus on tonight is relationships. And relationships in Wellkind, our definition of our pillar of relationships is focusing on creating conditions in which healthy relationships form and are maintained through talking, sharing in new experiences, and participating in events. So thank you, because you are developing your relationship component to yourself tonight by just participating. You're sharing in a new experience and participating in an event. And our goal tonight is that you walk away with some some new ideas, maybe some new thoughts around how reading can provide a platform for developing not only your child's emotional growth, but your emotional growth as an adult and building the bond even deeper between you and your child. And don't be intimidated, please, by the fact that maybe you're not a big reader yourself, because everybody's not, and that's okay. So if you have it's not something that you do a lot or you don't tend to do a lot, we still encourage that it can be a way to bond with your child, because it might be something that they're drawn to, and it certainly will build a lot of skills, and you'll see that as we go through the slides. So again, thank you for joining, and we're just going to get started. So feel free to ask any question that you might have. We're going to jump right into, and I gave a little bit about what Wellkind's pillars say about emotional growth and relationships, but truly the definition of emotional growth is development, is your child, looking at it through your child, is your child's ability to distinguish between and express their emotions in socially acceptable ways. And again, that's the key, socially acceptable ways, and to be able to understand the emotional content of other people's communication. So that's really important too. It's how are they interpreting the emotions of others? Are they feeling empathetic when they see someone show emotion? Are they feeling scared when they see someone show emotion? Are they feeling like they need to help or fix when they see someone's emotion? Or do they not know what to do with it and they just get overwhelmed when someone shows their emotions? So this is all part of learning and all of healthy growth and development. So that's what we're focusing on today, is how reading can really be a really key part in healthy emotional growth. So now that you have the definition, we're going to just talk about what we're covering here tonight, which is setting the stage. And that means setting the stage means putting all the conditions in place for successful reading habits in your home. We're also going to cover strategies for getting the most out of any book, because all books don't give us as much content as other books. You might open a book and you start flipping and you're thinking, what is this book? So that's one thing I suggest as a tip, to pre-read a book, even when you buy it. Pre-read it before you read it to your child, because sometimes you're surprised. I recently read a Halloween book to my children, and it was an interesting one that I wish I read through before I read it to them, because by the end they had questions and I wasn't ready to answer those questions because I hadn't read through it yet. Basically, it was going on a bear hunt, but it was a Halloween theme, so it was going on a goon hunt, and they were going through the forest and doing all these things. But in the book, they left the toddler at the haunted house and just ran home. And my kids were like, where's the little baby? And he was dancing at the haunted house, just having, fun. It was a parody. It was a silly Halloween book, but those things are important, because then we had to talk through that it was a book, and this, we had a lot of topics to cover that I wouldn't have covered. So that's why that is my suggestion to you, because I just went through it myself, and I think that's part of being a parent, is sharing our experiences and what works and what doesn't work. So the last thing that we're going to cover tonight is what to look for when selecting books, particularly for emotional growth. So those are our three little areas. So again, I just said setting the stage, and basically what that means is just being realistic in your expectations. So you might have a toddler, you might have an infant, you might have a preschooler, or even a school-age child. And depending on your child, what their activity level is, what their interest level is, what their interests are, we have to be realistic about that. So a book that you might love, that you might cherish, that you loved as a child, and you're in your mind, this is going to be this tender moment of you reading the book, they might just pick it up, throw it across the room, and you have to just move on and say, oh, we'll maybe get that book back into the circulation later. So some children are very drawn to books. I generally see that when books are a big part of the child's life from early on, they develop that love of books. But don't be intimidated if they haven't done that yet. There's plenty of time to develop that as a habit in your home. So take their lead when it comes to books. So if you sit down on the couch and you start to read a book, you are flipping through the book and they just stand up and walk away, you have a choice. You can continue to read the book, because they can still be listening even though they're playing next to you on the floor with something, or they appear to be, they just start walking in circles, that's still okay. That doesn't mean that they're not listening. So you might just continue to read that book, and they may come back and sit down with you, or they may not. That's one of your options. Another option is to just put the book down for the moment and go play with them on the floor with what they're playing with. So you can take their lead when it comes to reading, and meeting their need can be different at any time. So I just wanted to throw that out there, as sometimes people get frustrated because their child doesn't want to sit to read a book. So you don't always have to sit to read a book. You can stand to read a book. You can walk around the house reading a book. But if you have a moment in the evening where you can keep it consistent, where you read together, that's lovely. But take your child's lead. They are listening. Children move a lot more than we do on average. So don't just discount the fact that they're not cuddled up next to you like you see on a Hallmark commercial. So let's just keep on going here. One thing that I wanted to mention is making books available. Making books available to your child all throughout the house. Sometimes we have a bookshelf, and that's wonderful, but you can also just keep book baskets around your home. So or a shoebox, and put some books in the kitchen, or in a bedroom, or in a place where you do waiting sometimes. Like if you have a few children and they wait to brush their teeth or something like that, you can put them in the hallway in a basket or something. You can have books in your car, which a lot of people do that as well. But keeping books around your home in different areas really promotes those reading habits and those opportunities for you to connect with your child. So although a caveat to that is, sometimes when we have books in the bedroom, it can turn into reading time when it's time to go to bed. After they've gone to bed, then they're pulling books out, and then they're just trying to stay up later and later. So books in the bedroom may not be an appropriate place for your child at their age, or just based on how your child accesses books. But reading before bed is lovely. You can always do that, but maybe not have books in the bedroom, or take them in and out of the bedroom in a basket when you want to make them available to children. So that not only allows children to have a lot of opportunities to read books, but it also allows them to access the books when they feel like they need them. Because your child has a lot of feelings inside, and they don't have often they don't have the emotional vocabulary to go around those feelings. So sometimes they don't know what they feel, and you can say, do you want to go choose a book that matches what you're feeling? And they may go over to the basket and pull a book out. And sometimes it's surprising what they pull out. Maybe they're feeling a little bit of sadness or frustration, or maybe they're just feeling something, they're looking for some type of an imaginatory book that they'll just pull out and surprise you. Or maybe they'll pull out a book that you haven't seen in a long time and really want you to read that. So it gives children the opportunity to be the leaders in that process of what book to choose. And as I said, you might be surprised. It's an opportunity for you to show them that there's tools in the world that we can use that can help us through our feelings, and can help us to manage our stress, decompress. So that's why I recommend having them all throughout the house, because then they have access to them wherever they are. So, and I also wanted to say, for those families that have children that love to read, it's okay to put boundaries on reading. As much as I promote reading, if they're bringing you a book every 5 minutes, you can say, I can't do this right now, but I will do it right after I finish cooking dinner or something like that. You can give them that time in the future, as long as you follow through with whatever time you said. That's setting a boundary there, and it's letting them know that you're not available in that moment, but you will come back to them. So that's building trust. That's building a healthy emotional connection between the two of you. So don't feel that just because they're pulling books, you'll come back to me in a week and say, I put baskets all around the house. Now they're handing me books in every room and I can't get anything done. That's not the point. But you can say, why don't you look at the book right now and I'll come back in a few minutes or something like that. So you can certainly do that. And the more you do that and you set that kind of firm boundary, that kind but firm boundary, they're going to start looking at the book even when you're not available, and they'll start just looking at the pictures. And all of that self-discovery is really important too. So as I said here, allow your child to choose the book often, and offer a comfortable closeness. So if they want to be close to you, they can be on your lap, they can be under your arm while you read together. That does reinforce an emotional connection. But as I said, don't be upset or alarmed if your child isn't wanting that every time they read a book, because every time they read a book doesn't mean that they just want to relax and cuddle on the couch. I think 9 times out of 10, adults, we want that because we just want to relax for a minute. So we would rather maybe have that cuddly time on the couch and connect. But like I said, sometimes they just want to move, and it's okay that you're reading and they're moving. So let's see. So strategies for getting the most out of any book. And I shared a silly story earlier about pre-reading books, but pointing out feelings and labeling emotions in a book is extremely beneficial to you and your child, and to help expand that emotional vocabulary. So of course, these are simple things and you think I do that all the time. But what we're suggesting here is that using the pictures to be your best helper when you're reading, because some books, they may not have a lot of words, but they have amazing illustrations. Your child might like the book and you're thinking, why do they like this book? It doesn't have much to it. But if they like the book, you can get the most out of that book by using the illustrations. So you can point out things that aren't said in the book. So it doesn't say anything about, the boy frowning on the page, but you can say, what is that on that boy's face? Does he look happy? Does he look sad? What do you think? And if your child isn't at the point where they're responding to you, you can just make that commentary. You don't have to follow the book word for word, because remember, your child, if they're at Wellkind in our birth to 5 classrooms, they're not yet reading fluently. And many aren't reading at all yet. So, and that's totally appropriate. It's a kindergarten skill to start reading. And if they have it before that, that's totally fine, but it's not even considered developmentally appropriate in the sense that it's not something to be rushing towards. So pictures are your best helper. So as you're looking at the characters, you're pointing out their faces, you're pointing out the environment. What does it make you feel, this picture? Would you like to be in a place that looks like this? How would you feel if you went to a place like this? So those are the types of questions that you're asking. Pointing out the expressions. Sometimes the book, again, doesn't cover those things, but you can say, as I wrote here, look, she's crying. She must be sad that her friend didn't want to play. What could you do if your friend was crying? So again, you're fostering that emotional growth, that empathy for others. How do you think that made them feel? All of those types of questions. Now, the next part of that is following up with real life questions. So when the book is over, asking those questions, how did that book make you feel? And you can also give your feedback. If they're not giving it to you, you can say, it made Daddy feel scared when the ghost said boo. How did you feel? And you can also tie that back to life. So if you're driving and you had read that book the night before and something scares you, like a squirrel runs across the road, you can say, oh, I just felt scared, just like I felt last night when the ghost said boo. So you're drawing from different parts of your life and you're bringing it back to the book. So that's how we bring books to life. Everything you read in a book, they're not going to be able to experience as the book described it, but you can make those ties for them. And it's really important that you do, because they might not be able to. So you're showing them all different ways. What can it look like to be scared in all different ways? What does it look like to be happy in all different ways? Some people cry when they're so happy. Some people jump up and down when they're so happy. Some people, you can't tell. Are you happy? Are you sad? I don't know. Some people have a poker face on their emotions. So you have to help your child build the skills to infer how are they feeling when they're looking at others, and then be able to tell you how they're feeling. So again, that real life piece is really important because real life happens outside of books. So we want to be able to bring the book to real life. Oops, I think I went backwards. One moment. And now I'm going way forwards. Okay. All right. Okay, perfect. So how to pick a book that supports emotional growth. So when we're wanting to foster emotional growth in our children, we suggest that you're choosing books that appeal to you. So if you like the illustrations, choose that book for your child because you're drawn to that book for a reason. If your child just likes the pictures, as I mentioned before, and you're not seeing much in that book, you're thinking this isn't, doesn't really seem like there's a lesson in this book. I'm not really understanding why they're drawn to the book. But if they're drawn to the book, they're drawn to the book, and you can make much meaning out of that book. You can rewrite that book yourself by just expanding on it and telling different versions of the story. So children gain so much meaning by studying those pictures. I remember as a child staring at pictures, and you have that imagery in your mind of certain stories and just studying the pages. So you couldn't read the words, but you're studying the pages. So the illustrations are really important. It's recommended to choose books that have simple pictures that are understandable, that you can easily point out things in the pictures. Your child isn't having to search. They're not overwhelmed by all that's on the page. So just simple, straightforward pictures, ones that allow for you to ask questions and point out details. And once you found a book that your child enjoys, read it again and again and again and again and again and again. Can you read this again? Please, can you read this book? That is so important. And sometimes we forget the fact that that is actually helping them. So we get frustrated with the fact that we've read that book 40,000 times. But as a mom who has 4 kids that are in different stages myself, I will say I had many books memorized and still do, but just read the book is my point. Read the book because they're going to grow out of that stage and they're going to pick another book. But reading that book over and over again is extremely important for your child's development. The repetition of the language increases their vocabulary. And again, you can add more to that book through your words, but also it's predictable, and predictability is extremely healthy for children's emotional growth. They know what's going to happen, and you know what's going to happen. You can say that book with your eyes closed. You can read it in your dreams, but that's okay because the fact that the child knows what you're going to say next and can anticipate what you're going to say next is extremely healthy for them. That helps them feel safe and secure. There's no surprises. They know that they're going to flip that page. They know what you're going to say, and it's a self-soothe when they hear you repeating those books and then repeating those words. You're reinforcing safety and security for them. So feel free to read again and again and again and again. These are some books that will be that we recommend. The Feelings book is a great series. It has just simple, straightforward pictures, and anything that deals with feelings is going to be a wonderful choice. And being okay with feelings. So this last book here, I Want to Be Mad for a While, those types of things. We don't have to turn our frowns upside down in a second. We don't have to go from, actually, it's not possible to go from such sadness to extreme happiness, except you see children do that sometimes. They go from crying to lollipop and then they're smiling. So, but generally there's a journey from going from happy to sad. But these books can help your children, books such as these. It's okay to sit in our mad for a little while. We don't have to just switch to be happy. So we want to be able to sit with feelings and just acknowledge the feelings. And as adults, it's the same. So sometimes we try to push away negative feelings, sad feelings, mad feelings, but it's actually healthy to just sit with the feeling and recognize I'm feeling sad right now, but saying you're feeling sad right now, and I'm just going to sit with this for a minute, and then use some tools to get yourself into a better place. So Could be a book that gets yourself into a better place. It could be some music. It could be a walk. Many healthy habits can get you into a better place. But especially with children, we want them to know that it's okay to feel all the feelings that we feel. We just don't have to stay there forever. We just can cruise through those feelings. So we sit there for a little bit and then we can move on. So these are some books that will help your child do that. We do have a book fair coming up on Friday. I believe these books will be available at the book fair, but if they're not, I'm going to send a link through. You're going to get a link. This is about our book fair. It actually has started now, the virtual version, so you can purchase anything online, and it does benefit our school in the sense that we get points and then we get to pick books for our classroom. So the book fair is a very nice time of year to kind of increase some of, well, I don't want to say increase some of the books. You probably feel like you have so many books, but, and if you do, then keep reading those books. But sometimes it's nice to add a new book to your rotation. So the book fair is a great way to do that. But this year, our focus is on feelings and emotional growth. So that's where we're looking this year when we're making our purchases in the center too, because I think everybody needs that right now. And so we're putting our efforts and energy in making sure that we have those resources in the classroom, and those are the areas that are being focused on. So that's really it. I told you it was going to be short. It's just a short little one. You have things to do. I know you do. But if anybody has any questions, they can certainly answer. We just have about 5 or 6 more minutes on this call, but I'd be happy to answer anything that popped into anybody's head while we are chatting here. And you can come off mute or you can type in the chat. And I'm seeing some questions here. Okay. Okay. So the question, there was one comment there that about, and correct me if I'm wrong, it said that wouldn't that make your child not bring the book to you again? And was that referring to when I said I can't do that right now? Was that referring to that part of it when I said we can't do that right now, we'll do it later? With books?
Yes, that part.
Yeah. So again, that is part of just us putting boundaries on what we can and can't do, right? Because what kind of parent can we really truly be if we just are stretching ourselves so thin? And I think we all do that because we want to meet our children's needs at all times, and we try to. But it's healthy for them to know that we can't always get to them in that moment. So it's actually healthy. I know it might not feel that way, but it's okay to say, Mommy needs to take a few breaths right now. I just got home from work. Why don't you look at the books? And I'm going to take a few breaths. And as soon as I do that and I feel good, I'm going to come over and we're going to read. It's okay to do that. It really is. It's not only okay, it's actually extremely beneficial to your child to know that you're taking care of yourself. So, because that's how they learn to take care of themselves. So you're modeling at all times. So when they see you, if they're handing you a book and you're saying, fine, let me read it. Let's go, sit down. Let's do this. Let's do this. And in your mind, you're like, oh, dinner's going. I can't do that. That's actually not, that's not the best circumstances to read in, right? Would you agree that that's stressful and your child can feel that stress? So we recommend taking that time for yourself to breathe, to feel okay, and then engaging with your child. But you're not leaving your child dangling. You're telling them that you're coming for them, but you just can't in this moment. So you're giving them an option. Do you want to go build, or do you want to look at the pictures of the book yourself? And then I'll come find you in a few minutes. So you're always letting them know that you're there and that you're going to come back, and it'll just be a few minutes. If your child's old enough, you might set a timer, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And you say, when this goes beep, I'm going to come back and we're going to read that book. So it's okay to set those boundaries. It's really healthy to set those boundaries, because just think about it. Where are you in your state when you're engaging with your child to read? And if you're doing it in a stressful way because you feel like you have to, because they brought you the book and, and you feel like you must meet that need, but you're not able to in a calm, relaxed way, it's better to put it off till you are. So it's okay to do that. That's a great question though. Thank you for asking that.
I have another question.
Sure.
So I just started my job as a teacher with 2-year-olds, and I've been having a hard time keeping them still when reading books. What will be like a great advice to keep them calm and not, they get distracted easily. So
yeah,
it's hard to like finish a book or, ask simple questions.
Yeah. So remember, they are listening, even though they're not appearing to be listening. So I would recommend choosing a book that's very attention grabbing, and you can do that through the voices that you use. So you want to be high and low in your tones. You want to have some soothing tones when you're, to kind of draw them in. Just think of music. So sometimes music hits different notes where it goes up and down. So you want to, boys and girls, we're reading the Halloween Pumpkin. Okay, is everybody ready? And then you're going to whisper, and then you're going to go into different voices as you're reading. So that's going to get their attention, and you'll get their attention. So typical toddler, 3 to 5 minutes. If you did that, you're a master. 3 to 5 minutes is about all they can handle. So you're not doing anything wrong. It's just their attention span is shorter, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So just keep it going, and just keep trying to bring your excitement into it. That's going to help a lot. And somebody asked about the virtual as opposed to, I think it's going to cut me off here. I hope not. But if it cuts me off, I will certainly, I will just come back. I will just re-log in. But it's okay to flip back and forth through the iPad and a paper book, but put some boundaries on that as well. So you can have iPad, you can get one story iPad, and then we're doing one story book. So just to have a balance, because there is something to be said for the handling of books. It actually is healthy for your child, and it's building skills, fine motor skills to flip pages, and to be studying the book and being able to touch with their finger actual paper, right? We're getting so away from paper, but there's